where do you honestly start with this bullshit, right? That's the real question, because nobody could possibly, one, the no-fly zone idea in Syria is terrifying. But and this is a huge but. Every other solution is not a solution, and even the no-fly zone is potentially the worst solution. In Syria, there is a cluster F of forces, as well as there's no right solution in Syria. And it's almost as though President Obama's involvement, because we're involved, but we're not involved. We're not involved in a substantive way where we could shut it down, right? To stop the humanitarian crisis, to stop the slaughter. And we're not involved to the extent that we actually can fix the problem. It's actually, now that I think about it, it's quite fitting that we know the problem. We see the problem, but we're not going to do anything to fix the problem, because that's how America really is in general. Now, in specific, fixing the problem probably would cause a lot more things to get a lot worse before it gets better. And even if we fix the problem and got rid of Assad, then we have a vacuum, right? We have a potential vacuum, and we have a broken regime. You still have about 2 million people there who still support Assad, right? So you have 2 million people, if not more, give or take, depending on how many people have been killed, right? You have 2 million people who genuinely support the Assad regime. So even if you got rid of Assad, that they're not going anywhere. So you're stuck between. It is a quagmire. It is the quintessential definition of a quagmire. So that being said, the no-fly solution, the no-fly zone, and really, if you listen to Mike Pence, as well as Tim Kaine, as well as Hillary Clinton, they're proposing the same thing, right? One calls it a safe zone. The other calls it a some other type of zone. And then Hillary Clinton calls it a no-fly zone, because you don't have safe zones without instituting a no-fly zone, right? But you do realize, in the absence of a no-fly zone, we have completely and utterly left the population at the mercy of a man who has demonstrated that he has no qualm whatsoever killing as many of them indiscriminately as possible. Right. Let's just put that there. Right. So in the absence of safe zones and a no-fly zone, there is no place for anyone to go where they can hide and be safe from the attacks from Assad and Russia that are ostensibly to the nation, to the world rather, being described as going after ISIS, but definitely and indiscriminately targeting civilians who are part of the rebellion. So as bad as the no-fly zone is, and there's no question, that does put us up directly at odds with Russia. What solution is on the table now to actually stop this civil war that's been going on for 5 years? And the reason I ask that is because a lot of people have juxtaposed Hillary Clinton's no-fly zone solution with Donald Trump's no to the no-fly zone non-solution, right? Donald Trump, he disagrees with the no-fly zone. Fine. I think it's right to disagree with it, or at least to argue against it until we find out the right solution, right? To not just take it on GP. Don't take it on general principles that just because this is something Democrats are proposing that we should go with. Absolutely not. Right. So, yes, great. He disagrees with it. But what solution is he going to bring to the table? And that's the one thing that Martha Raddatz did good last night. Right. Actually, I enjoyed Martha Raddatz because she simply asked questions that demonstrated that even though Donald Trump is opposing Hillary Clinton's no-fly zone, he is completely inept on the situation of Syria. No solution, no remedy, nothing but opposition to what Hillary Clinton is saying. Now, here's the problem. If you become president of the United States, you are going to have to do something. Or this is how screwed up America is, right? The world is. Or you simply do what President Obama has been doing, which is a intervention, non-intervention, intervention. I mean, what do you call it at this point? Yeah, we're bombing ISIS, but we're not bombing ISIS sufficiently to actually, we're bombing ISIS, but we're not changing or involved in fixing the civil war portion. There's so many conflicts going on right now in Syria. The one thing that we're involved with is trying to get rid of ISIS. Gotcha. But in terms of the war that Assad is waging on his civilians, America is not doing anything about that in a significant way to turn the tide whatsoever. So you're either going to do what we're currently doing, which is we're going after ISIS. We're bombing the hell out of ISIS, right? Contrary to Republican belief. We're bombing the hell out of ISIS. We're either going to keep doing that and do nothing on the civil war portion, or we're going to do Hillary Clinton's plan, which is to provide safe zones vis-a-vis no-fly zone, which is going to cost thousands upon thousands of lives. I'm saying Saudi and Yemen at this point. So, no, of Syrian lives, right? It's going to cost thousands of Syrian lives to institute, but those lives are going to be destroyed because of the civil war and the potential of running into Russia in World War III, right? Here's the one thing. Here's the one thing that I think. I said all of that previously to say this. There is really, realistically, there is no good solution in Syria. There's not. It's already a protracted war, and 5 years went by like that. It probably, at the pace we're going, it probably will last another 5 years easily. All that to say this about Russia. If anybody remembers, I believe it was back in January, maybe January. It didn't seem to be that cold when this happened. So let's say November last year, where Turkey shot down a Russian fighter jet, and an emergency conference of the Security Council was called. Security Council, as well as NATO, right, was called into session because of the implications, because Vladimir Putin had it within his ability to strike back. Turkey, member of NATO, shot down a Russian fighter jet, and Vladimir Putin could have reacted, but he didn't. He didn't because of the ramifications, which would have been an attack on Turkey, which would have pulled the United States directly into a war with Russia. I said that to say this. We can't allow, we simply can't allow Russia, or the fear of Russia, to dictate all of our steps in the region. If we do that, we may as well pull out of the region. But also, we can't allow them to portray Russia as this, as North Korea, or as a Donald Trump, which is an irrational actor. Russia is not an irrational actor. They demonstrated restraint in the Turkey shoot down of their fighter jets because they knew the ramifications of it. And so this fear of Russia as being an irrational actor that would allow this to go to World War III is actually it actually goes counter to the fact that Vladimir Putin is a rational actor. Now, if this was a conversation about North Korea, it would be totally different. But I firmly believe that Vladimir Putin is a rational actor who is not going to rush into World War III. And I believe that he's doing everything he can within the scope of what America is allowing. I don't care. Forget all the saber rattling. There's two things that are happening. There's a lot of saber rattling. I don't even know for sure if Hillary Clinton would try a no-fly zone. Right. I think it's partly saber rattling, just like with Vladimir Putin. He does it to garner favor amongst his population. Domestic policy. Hating America is great business for Vladimir Putin, just like hating Russians is great business for Democrats. Apparently, it used to be Republicans. But I said all that to say is that Russia is going to do everything that we give them space to do. And we are either going to engage in this international community or we're not. And if we're not, then that's one thing. But if we are, we have to engage. We have to engage, and we have to engage by the rules that we know. We have to engage by the principles that we know and understand how far reaching our decisions are going to go, or the impact of our decisions. We have to think about it in that respect. And we also have to understand the player across the field. The player across the field with Vladimir Putin is not an irrational actor. And to be fearful of Vladimir Putin from a progressive point of view suggests that he is irrational, which undermines so many other arguments from the progressive point of view, which we try to say to liberals, and we try to say stop making Russia the enemy. Well, if Russia is in Vladimir Putin, if they are irrational, then perhaps we should handle them in a different way than trying to be reasonable with them. It can't be both. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I know that's what I'm trying to say here. It can't be both. If we believe that Russia is a rational actor, then we have to engage them accordingly and realize that they are doing everything that we're giving them space to do. If we believe they're irrational actors, then perhaps we shouldn't be protecting them domestically in our arguments, right? We're sitting here trying to make it seem like America is making Russia out to be villains, which I think they are. I think we're doing it, and we're doing it for politics. I think Vladimir Putin is a rational actor, and he's going to engage in the international community to the extent that we allow him to engage. All that to say this. I'm not willing to risk it. I'm against the no-fly zone, but I'm not convinced that a no-fly zone is going to lead to World War III. I'm not, because that would demand and require Vladimir Putin to be an irrational actor, because he can't win World War III. That's what the theory tells me. And when I say theory, that's what international relations theory tells me. That's what I believe. However, am I willing to bet that? Nah, not at all.